Hi guys, my name is Joshua Clairflag from Watch It All About, and in this video we're going to consider my top 5 things you should know before collecting watches. Thousands of watches have passed through my hands, whether it's from my own personal collection or watches I've reviewed on my own website. Over the years, I've stored a few vital nuggets that I would love to share with you in this video. So, here are my top 5 things you should know before collecting watches. Point number 1 is Swiss doesn't automatically mean the best. This is my number 1 tip for watch enthusiasts and collectors just starting out. If you're interested in luxury timepieces, then Grand Seiko from Japan are a wonderful alternative. Also, if you look to Germany, you have Glashütte and A. Lange & Son. They're wonderful alternatives to Swiss-made timepieces. However, with the rise of smaller watch brands, also known as micro brands, over the past few years, you can get some outstanding watches which are openly manufactured in China. Just developing this a little bit further, did you know that some parts of watches labelled Swiss-made aren't actually entirely manufactured in Switzerland? Some parts are made in China. For those 2 important words, Swiss made, to be printed on the dial, the following rules need to be followed. Firstly, the movement needs to be Swiss. Secondly, the movement needs to be cased up in Switzerland. Thirdly, now this is the interesting point, only 60% of the total manufacturing costs must occur in Switzerland, which when you think about it is actually mostly the movement itself and the labour of casing up the movement. And finally, point number 4, the final inspection must be done in Switzerland. Therefore, 40% of the value of the watch can and is made elsewhere. So if some of the best watch manufacturers in the world trust China to manufacture parts of their watch, you can be sure that their build quality is up to scratch. For instance, take this depth charge. Now this thing is built like a tank and it has an amazing spec list. Sapphire crystal, ceramic bezel insert, reliable automatic movement, 200 meters water resistance. What does it cost? A mere £179. The long and short of it is, open up your mind to watches not made in Switzerland, because they can match them, even surpass them in terms of build quality. If you're serious about watch collecting or want to get the best watch for your money, learn all there is to learn about watches. How about the statement of a mechanical movement? Now, it could be said that a mechanical movement is just a hand wind only movement, maybe like the movement found in this Hamilton Khaki field. And a mechanical movement doesn't necessarily cover an automatic movement, such as the movement found in this Seiko Sports. The truth of the matter is, though, that mechanical movements cover both of these different types of movement, hand wind and automatic. At the end of the day, a mechanical movement is a movement powered by a mainspring, so it covers both of these different types and not a movement powered by a battery. Also, I would highly recommend learning about all the different parts of a watch. Have a nice rounded knowledge of all the different parts, such as the crystal, the bezel insert, the bezel itself, the lugs, the crown, the case back, the bracelet. Once you understand all the different parts, it gives you a much nicer rounded knowledge of a watch. Finally, don't cite one post on Instagram, Facebook, or a forum as fact, because many people come across as knowing loads about watches and they might give that impression, but in actual fact, most of the time, they don't. So I would suggest knuckle down, get your facts right, swat up on everything there is to learn, and you will be able to make the best informed decisions. Point number 3 is understand your wrist size and which watches fit you best. When shopping for watches, it's important to pay attention to the dimensions of a watch and also your wrist size. So if you haven't measured your wrist size yet, I would recommend you do that. You may only like big chunky watches measuring 52 millimeters in diameter and larger, which of course is fine, but if you want a watch that's comfortable, that looks great on the wrist and is easy to wear, give your wrist a measure. A very, very important dimension is what's called the lug-to-lug length, and that is the length between the very top of the lug here of the bottom lug, and the lug is the section that the strap is connected to. So here are some very simple guidelines, and if you adhere to these points, you will get a watch that fits you really, really nicely. How about if you have a slightly smaller wrist? So that would be around the 6.5 inches and lower. I would recommend going for around the 36 to 38 millimeters in diameter, and also a lug-to-lug length of around the 46 millimeter mark. How about, like me, you have a fairly average wrist size, about 7 inches or so? Well, I find that the sweet spot is 40 to 42 millimeters, with a lug-to-lug length of around the 48 millimeter mark. Look at how nicely this Certina DS-1 Big Date fits me. Measuring in at 41 millimeters in diameter on my 7-inch wrist, it fits so nicely, it's so comfortable on as well. So how about if you have a pretty large wrist, larger than average, 7.5 inches and upwards? Well, in that case, you want to go for a watch around the 44 millimeters diameter and upwards, with a lug-to-lug length of around 50 millimeters. If you get a watch that fits you, trust me, you won't believe the difference it makes to making a watch much more enjoyable to wear. The fact of the matter is, the world of watches wouldn't be the same without these big, famous brands. Don't just write them off thinking that they're charging a lot of money for no reason. Research them, see what they've done for the watch industry. For instance, Rolex. They have done so much in terms of invention and innovation. They created the very first waterproof case. They created the very first self-winding movement with a perpetual rotor, and they created the very first watch with a take complication. Similarly, Seiko, they unveiled the Astron in 1969, the very first quartz watch. Now, can you imagine if they didn't create that quartz watch? Hamilton, they created the very first digital watch in 1972 when they released the Pulsar P1. Without the hard work of these and many other forefathers of the industry, the watches we love to see today wouldn't be the same. So on to my final point. Point number 5, be strong and like what you like. Take me for example. Many watch enthusiasts don't particularly like the watch brand Hublot. They think they're a little bit brash, they don't have any real heritage to them. However, for me, the Big Bang is my grail piece. I absolutely adore that watch, and I would greatly have one despite what many other watch enthusiasts might think. It works in the other direction too. Do you like Rolex? Do you want a Rolex? Well, I'm sure you have respect for them, but do you only really want one because you feel it might impress others? If you only like or dislike watches because of other people's opinions, you won't feel the same with them. So go for watches that you like. That is the main thing. Thank you so much for watching, guys. The few watches that I featured in this video, links to purchase them are in the description below. Drop a comment as well what you think of my 5 points. Also, if you have any top tips that you'd like to share as well, please drop a comment. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe as well to see more videos like this. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.